African countries are deploying troops in Mozambique to combat terrorists in the country's gas-rich Cabo Delgado province, which has witnessed deadly attacks by Takfiri terrorists and rebels. Recent attacks forced global energy giants to stop activities in the region, while locals have borne the brunt of the violence. One of those affected gives an eyewitness account on what happened during an attack by terrorists.
Manyumba nkuta moto, wana wankuatwala, wanu wankusinjiwa, wanu wankulaiwa kwa mabunduki. Wepatika tukuta, yambi kutukuta kati tukuta, ati kutukuta ndikuwira tena panyuma ndikuona matokeo ya kukaya.
Hello, I'm Mubarak Kenya and a warm welcome to another edition of Africa Today, a program which gives you an incisive analysis on events taking place across Africa. Now, in the first segment of our program, we are focusing on the decision by several African countries to join in Mozambique's war on Takfiri terrorists. We are asking, what are the chances of success in this mission? And what's the French connection? In the second part of our program, we shall focus on the situation in Nigeria, where children have been forced out of school due to an upsurge in abductions, especially in the northern part of this West African country. A parent of one of the abducted children speaks here during a protest gathering.
We stand in one voice, we condemn what has happened, and we will protest, we will continue to protest until our children are brought back.
Stay with us till the end of our show and send us your comments through our social media handle as you watch.
African forces join Mozambique's war on terror. Since 2017, armed militants linked to Takfiri terrorist groups including Daesh have been on the offensive in the northern Mozambique energy-rich province of Cabo Delgado. The human toll of this violence is grave, with more than 3,000 killed, nearly 1 million displaced, and an acute hunger crisis. With several thousand fighters, the Daesh-affiliated Al-Shabaab in Mozambique has conducted increasingly sophisticated military operations, including by reportedly working with intelligence cells within the Mozambican military. Regional bloc, the Southern African Development Community, also known as SADC, and Rwanda are following up on committed troop deployments and training missions. Speaking during a SADC summit in April this year, Botswana's president, Mokwetsi Masisi, said the region cannot remain indifferent to the insecurity in Mozambique.
We cannot stay indifferent as our fellow compatriots in a SADC member state continue to wallow under the atrocious, brutal, and indiscriminate assaults meted out on them by these faceless terrorists. For these attacks are a clear affront to the SADC vision of a region that is peaceful, stable, secure, and prosperous.
The Southern African Development Community held an extraordinary summit on June the 23rd and approved the deployment of what is known as the SADC Standby Force in support of Mozambique to combat terrorism in Cabo Delgado. Now, the bloc's executive secretary elaborates here at the end of the one-day summit in Mozambique's capital, Maputo.
7. Summit endorsed the recommendations of the report of the chairperson of the Organ on Policy, Defense and Security Cooperation and approved the mandate for the SADC Standby Force mission to the Republic of Mozambique to be deployed in support of Mozambique to combat terrorism and the acts of violent extremism in Cabo Delgado.
Now, for more analysis on the situation in Mozambique and the deployment of regional forces to combat terrorists, we have contacted Dr. Yusuf Adam, a Mozambican historian and academic. Thanks a lot, sir, for your time. Now, first, can you tell us some of the reasons for the current insurgency in Mozambique, which has been going on for several years now?
These areas of Cabo Delgado, etc., are areas which have been really have a big problem with youth. They have a youth bulge. The second problem we have to mention is corruption. Corruption is rampant in Mozambique. The problem which we also have to take into consideration is environmental destruction. And the other problem is that the companies which are going to exploit petrol inland and onshore and inland, they have limited certain areas, and these areas are off limits for the local fishermen.
Well, clearly from what Dr. Adam has just said, the insurgency in Cabo Delgado is partly due to grievances by local people who are suffering from neglect by the government and exploitation by global energy giants in the region.
In Cabo Delgado, thousands of people are being forced from their land to make way for gas exploration by Western fossil fuel giants Shell, Eni, ExxonMobil, Total and others. Instead of locals benefiting from their immense natural resources, they are seeing poverty, conflict, debt and pollution. A resident explains here on how they are being forced to move from their traditional fishing areas.
Siku nyingi nivua mpaka kuja na dalu nepani ngalini kivua. Na nobobo katambia kama ni isakwati modalini mulawepa moke mukavua pande mwingine. Nguvu zile kwa nguvuni.
What prompted regional African countries to make the drastic decision to send troops to Mozambique years after insurgents started their attacks?
At this moment, the war has been increasing. Yes, the Mashababus they had attacked Musimbo, but then they attacked Palma. And at the moment they attacked Palma, mainly means that they have stopped or they have obliged the French company Total to stop its activities and many other companies which worked for Total. And at that time also there was very big coverage in the press internationally about what was going on in the region.
Rwanda, which is not a member of the Southern African Development Community, was the first African country to deploy troops in Mozambique. Now, sources say SADC was concerned about a non-member country deploying soldiers in the region without its approval and ahead of the bloc's own troops.
Mozambique insists that while it remains committed to working with SADC to restore peace to the northern region, it can partner with other African states to address its security challenges. There have been reports that Rwanda is sending troops to Mozambique to protect massive economic interests of France. However, Rwanda's military spokesman says the deployment follows a request by Maputo.
The purpose of this mission, first of all, is based on a request by the government of Mozambique to the government of Rwanda to help support in conducting military operations, including security operations and stabilization, as well as security sector reform. So this was a request by the government of Mozambique to the government of Rwanda, and this is part of a bilateral agreement that we had since 2018.
Rwanda is the only African country outside the SADC bloc to deploy troops in Mozambique. Rwanda's decision came after Emmanuel Macron's visit to Kigali. Now, is Rwanda probably acting on behalf of France to protect French energy giants engaged in Mozambique LPG projects?
I think that the Rwandese at this moment are some kind of private army. They are all Tutsis. It's a private army. It's a private army which belongs to a state, which is Rwanda, and they are attacking. They are in Mozambique. They came first. Until now, there are the information which we have about their activities are more or less part of the propaganda that they have. I think that basically the Rwandese are going to stay around Afungi and create an area of 25 miles of radius, more or less, around Afungi, which was the area and the conditions that Total had asked the Mozambican government.
SADC deployment of troops and equipment to Mozambique has been welcomed by many local and international observers. Southern African states had been under pressure to mobilize and help the Mozambican forces to restore security and ensure civilian protection against attacks in Cabo Delgado.
Now, the main argument in favor of a regional intervention is the risk of a violent spillover into Mozambique's neighboring states. However, regional troops face many challenges, chief among them financial resources to fund the troops and experience in battling insurgents. Now, do you think regional forces will eventually restore stability in the restive Cabo Delgado province?
Yes, inshallah. I hope we will manage. And what we have to do at this moment is to combat the root causes of this war, which is having more girls in schools, so we don't have this youth bulge. We have to have the proper participatory development where the population feels that what they need is given back to them: water, sanitation, health, roads, infrastructure, etc. Job creation at a massive scale, so the young people can really feel the benefits of the development.
Well, there you have it. Our guest says the solution to the insurgency in Mozambique is to ensure that the people benefit from the country's resources. But will the insatiable greed by the mainly French energy giants allow the people of Cabo Delgado to benefit from the wealth of this region? Now let's take a short break, and when we come back, we shall focus on school children in Nigeria and how they have been affected by insecurity.
Children affected by Nigeria's insecurity.
Since December last year, more than 1,000 Nigerian students and staff have been abducted and held for ransom by criminal gangs and terrorists in the dense forests of the northern part of this West African country. Now, humanitarian agencies warn that an alarming rise in abductions is disrupting education of hundreds of thousands of Nigerian children.
Since the infamous kidnapping of 276 girls from a school in Chibok, Borno State in 2014 by the Takfiri terrorist group Boko Haram, school attacks and kidnappings have steadily increased. And in the last 6 months, incidences have risen sharply. The United Nations Children's Agency, UNICEF, estimates that around 1,125 schools are closed across northwest Nigeria. Peter Hawkins, the UNICEF representative in Nigeria, elaborates on the situation of education in Nigeria.
The situation of education in Nigeria is probably at its biggest crisis point at the moment. There are in the region of 13.2 million children out of school in total, which is the highest number globally.
Some northern states of Nigeria like Zamfara, Katsina, Borno, Kaduna and Niger have been especially vulnerable to these school kidnappings due to a proliferation of these armed criminal gangs and terrorists. A student who was kidnapped and later released speaks here on what the kidnappers say is their motive.
They say, we are not after you, we are after the government. We now ask them, what did the government do to you? They said government promised them and they failed it. What did the government promise? You now tell us that the government promised during the election, as in the election, this political rally, they promised them to give them good hospital, good shelter, good school, and those that are not working, they promised them to be giving them monthly allowance.
Now, for more on the state of the kidnappings of students in Nigeria and how this has affected education in the country, we have contacted Edward Corrigan, an international human rights lawyer. Thanks a lot for your time, sir. Now, our first question, how serious is the problem of children failing to go to school in parts of Nigeria due to insecurity?
The problem is very serious. There's over 1,000 children have been kidnapped. There was an incident in 2014, I believe, where over nearly 300 female students were kidnapped. And just recently, 140 boys were kidnapped from the Bethel Baptist High School. So it's very serious. In fact, a number of the 5 or 6 states in northeastern Nigeria have actually shut down all the schools to try to prevent these students from being kidnapped and held for ransom. And of course, the government is refusing to pay ransom, even though in the end, I think it has happened.
Thanks for that insight, Mr. Corrigan.
Organized crime syndicates have adopted a kidnap and ransom tactic, and this has forced state officials to negotiate with criminals and pay them millions of dollars in ransom to secure freedom for many school children. The government has rejected claims of paying ransom. After years of terrorist attacks, kidnapping of school children is a recent phenomenon in Nigeria. Why have the kidnappings escalated?
Part of the problem is that there are criminal groups and bandits that are kidnapping children and holding them for ransom, for money. So you have this additional factor, plus the Boko Haram, and also another group called the Islamic State for West Africa Province. It's ISWAP, but they have split off from Boko Haram, and they're actually now the dominant group because they just actually killed the leader of Boko Haram, who was a little bit of a crazy man, Abu Bakr Sadaka, who supposedly was killed at the orders of the Islamic State in the Middle East. But you have criminal groups that are trying to make money, taking advantage of the chaos and instability that exists in the area, and there are grievances within the tribal groups and also the Islamic community against the central government.
Criminal gangs locally called bandits have been operating in northwestern Nigeria for more than a decade, but when they were reportedly infiltrated by members of the Takfiri terrorist group Boko Haram in December, the abductions and violence escalated. A parent whose child was killed by kidnappers is urging the government to take action.
Government should be proactive. They should not just keep quiet. They should be proactive to help the situation because it's getting out of hand.
Now, Mr. Corrigan, do you think the criminals engaged in kidnapping of school children in Nigeria are collaborating with Boko Haram and other Takfiri terrorist groups?
Some definitely are. Some are independent operators. And of course, there are factions within Boko Haram itself, some of which are out of control. But Boko Haram started when the government killed a leader of the Islamic community back in 2009, and that sort of sparked the insurgency in northeast Niger and Nigeria, and also the border area of Niger. So you have 40,000 killed, 2 million people are displaced, and you have a very serious problem. So Boko Haram is doing this to generate money and also to gather followers. They're trying to probably recruit child soldiers, but the main purpose seems to be to get ransom and money, which both would fund terrorism but also criminal activities.
This mass kidnapping of Nigerian school children points to major security challenges in Africa's most populous nation, amid concerns that the increasing number of students not reporting to school due to insecurity will result in a lost generation of youth. Nigerian President Muhammadu Buhari has on several occasions said his government is working hard to restore security.
The law enforcement agencies are working hard to regain confidence against the bandits so that people can go back to the land. This is very important. This is what the law enforcement agents are very busy about now. The rainy season is coming, so we want people to go back to the land.
How is the Nigerian government responding to the current crisis? Is the situation spiraling out of control?
Questions as to where they're getting their funding, where they're getting their arms. Are there external groups, supporting them? Because of course Nigeria is a oil-rich country, and it's peculiar that Islamic State has been used by various outside parties to undermine central government authority, and that raises questions of, are there external actors using Boko Haram and other Islamic militant groups to accomplish other objectives and to create chaos, and of course to extort concessions from the central government.
Nigeria is an oil and gas-rich nation. It is also the largest economy in Africa in terms of nominal GDP and the 26th in the world, according to the IMF World Economic Outlook. So in whose interests is the instability in Nigeria? Now, Mr. Corrigan, our last question to you. Do you think foreign powers or entities are involved in the protracted violence and insecurity in Nigeria by backing Takfiri terrorist groups and other criminal gangs?
Questions as to where they're getting their funding, where they're getting their arms. Are there external groups, supporting them? Because of course Nigeria is a oil-rich country, and it's peculiar that Islamic State has been used by various outside parties to undermine central government authority, and that raises questions of, are there external actors using Boko Haram and other Islamic militant groups to accomplish other objectives and to create chaos, and of course to extort concessions from the central government.
Well, thanks for your time and insight, Mr. Corrigan. Now, we all look forward to a peaceful Nigeria where children feel safe at school and hopeful about their future. That wraps it up for this week's edition of Africa Today. Drop us a line through our social media handle and let us know what you think about today's show. Thanks a lot for watching, and goodbye for now.